Hey there, welcome to my channel. I am Traveling Tayler, and today we're going to talk about remote work productivity tips while you are traveling the world. So I've been a digital nomad for the last 4 years, and I picked up quite a few things along the way. Also, I just really love productivity and being efficient, so feel free to check out my productivity playlist after this video. But for today's sake, let's go ahead and jump right into how you can be productive as a digital nomad. So my first tip for you is to travel slowly. Yes, I think this is one of the biggest mistakes, especially that new nomads make, is that you try to visit too many places in a short period of time, and it becomes very challenging to stay on top of your work because you're usually transiting. You're usually like bouncing from place to place. It doesn't really give you time to enjoy each location because you actually do have to still work. So I recommend staying in a place for at least 1 month at a time. And even then, I usually still can't fit everything in on top of my work responsibilities, but that is an ideal amount of time to spend in a place. Sometimes 2 weeks might be sufficient, or maybe that's all the time that you have, and that's okay, but definitely try to aim for like 1 to 2 months in a location. Another way that you can do this is you can stay in sometimes a single country, but move around to different cities. So like say Mexico, for example, you could spend up to 6 months in Mexico for most passport holders. So you could do like a month in Playa del Carmen, maybe a couple months in Mexico City, and then I don't know, maybe a month in Puerto Escondido, and then at that time, maybe you're ready to go. I don't know, but that is one way that you can do that. There's a term for this that we have in the community, which is slow mad, which is ideally just moving around 1 to 3 months instead of moving around any faster than that. Okay, the next thing that you want to do before going to a destination is make sure that you can have stable Wi-Fi. So even if it's stable in like the country or the city, your Airbnb or hotel or hostel, whatever, may not have great Wi-Fi. So read the reviews. That's like the tip number one, is go read the reviews that people have to say. If you are booking Airbnb, you can usually ask for a speed test before you book as well. That's one way to get around that. And then if there's no like co-working or cafe spaces around town, then that might also be an indication that the Wi-Fi is not that great. So just do your research before getting somewhere. And then once you first get to a location, that's one of the things that you're gonna wanna scout out before you actually have to start your workday, especially if you don't have great internet at home. You're gonna wanna find a place in town that you can actually go and work from. The last thing you wanna do on the first day you work in a location is be scrambling and trying to figure out where you can actually get Wi-Fi. So do that research ahead of time, or once you first get on site, go around and scout out some options. If you want to know and you want a little cheat sheet, go ahead and grab my digital nomad city guides. The link is down in the description below. In there, I actually tell you if a place has good Wi-Fi or not, and also list different co-working and cafes that you can work from. So go ahead and grab that. Now, the next thing you want to do is really prioritize your tasks. So the way I like to do this is prioritize work and life tasks. You shouldn't just be prioritizing work. It is very important. And you need to know if you are a remote employee and you have to work a certain time zone, maybe you have a lot of meetings, you need to put those into your calendar and prioritize those getting done. If your schedule is a bit more flexible, that's great. Maybe you could take a Friday morning off and go for a hike. Maybe you can even take, a Wednesday afternoon off and like go out on a boat or something, whatever it is. So it's really just gonna depend on your location and what activities are there. It's great if you can take a break in the middle of the day and say do like a walking tour or something and make up for it later at night, but not everybody's schedules are that flexible. So you really need to understand what you have to do for work, start to prioritize, and then also start to prioritize those like main activities you really want to get done so that you make sure you can actually fit them in while also getting your work done. And if you find yourself not really working well by yourself, like at your Airbnb or inside your room or something, then you're gonna wanna try to find places where other people are working. So this could be a co-working space or a coffee shop. Those are probably the two most common. I've even worked from like libraries or from train stations when I was traveling as well. There are different places that you can find that has good, stable Wi-Fi, but that might put you in an environment that maybe just has a bit more energy to it. Sometimes I know if my energy is low, having others around me focusing and doing work can really help. I also find that my environment is just really important in general. So the more natural light I have, if I'm not like too hot or too cold, if I have access to coffee, these things all really help me work and focus. And so pay attention to your environment. And if you need to, maybe change it up a couple times a week if you are mostly working from home and you get a little tired of that. Another point to actually working at cafes and coffee shops and stuff that is important to being productive is to make sure you can charge your computer. So if your computer charge lasts like 4 hours, like that's great, that's amazing. Mine doesn't last that long anymore. And so when I first walk into a place, before I ever order anything and before I ever sit down and decide to stay there, is I look and see, is there a place to plug in my computer? And maybe there's not. Maybe if my computer is charged, then I might sit and have a coffee and do as much work as I can before changing locations. But again, the more you're changing locations and interrupting your work day, the more your workflow is, not going to be as productive. So definitely make sure you have a way. If you have, maybe you have an external backup charger, that's one way you can do it. That way you can kind of go anywhere you want to go without having to worry about that. But pay attention. Can you charge your computer wherever you choose to go outside of your home? And then just some other like general tips that I like to use to help me stay productive throughout the day is, the first one is the Pomodoro method. And I actually have a full video on what that is and how to use it, but this is one of my most effective and favorite ways to stay focused. So basically you set a 25-minute timer, and during that time you turn off all notifications and you focus on one task during that time. Once the timer goes off, you get a 5-minute break and then you start all over. These are really great. We've actually, here where I've been, we've been doing these as a group. And so again, it's kind of that environment of everyone's working and focused, but everyone's quiet. There's no talking, there's no interruptions. People start talking to you, just like ignore them. Another thing you can do is wear headphones. So I've definitely been at like coffee shops where there's a lot of noise and sound and it's really distracting. So I'll put in my headphones. Sometimes I don't even turn music on. Just the act of like blocking out some sound can really help. So make sure you have a good pair of headphones that you like to wear when you're working. I mentioned turning off notifications. That can be an important part. I use Slack for my work and my social life and everything pretty much. And so I'm getting constant notifications, WhatsApp notifications. So if I'm having trouble focusing, it's good to go ahead and turn all of those off. Also, when I'm planning my day, I tend to, it's called batch tasking. And so this is batching like tasks and doing them at the same time. So there's this idea of something called context switching. And this is when you switch in between tasks, unlike task, that it actually takes your brain more time to kind of get into the flow of things. This is an oversimplification of this, but that's generally what it is. So the more you can batch like task, actually the more productive you can be throughout the day. So when I was freelancing, I was able to actually work on like one client Monday and Wednesday, and then my other client Tuesday and Thursday. And that was way more productive than me trying to switch between them throughout the day. Same thing like right now. Filming. This is a whole skill set and my brain needs to be in a certain headspace. And so I just plan a whole day where all I do is film, right? That is batch tasking. It doesn't make any sense to film one day and then the next day film something else. Obviously that happens sometimes, but the more that you can, say you need to be in a creative headspace, do all your creative tasks at one time. The next day, maybe do some more of your like admin style task, if you get the idea. Again, I have a video on context switching in my productivity playlist. You can go check that out and learn more about it. And then the last method that I usually like to use a lot, just for myself, is the reward method. So this means if I finish task A, then I get to go take a walk around the block. Or if I finish this, writing this email, then maybe I get to, go get a snack from the kitchen or something like that. So it usually helps me, it's almost like having a deadline, right? It's like, okay, well, if I finish this quickly, then I can actually go do the thing that I actually want to do. So I use the reward method a lot. It also works with me because I like to work out in the evenings. And so I need to finish my work so that I can work out, so that I can eat dinner, right? This is a method that I use a lot as well. So there you go. Those are different ways that you can be productive while you're traveling on the road. Use a combo of them, maybe focus on one or two. The main thing is just sort of thinking ahead and planning ahead. That's really what a lot of these came down to. And then if you are having trouble focusing, try to do some of those other methods like reward method or Pomodoro technique. So there you go. Again, I am Traveling Tayler. You can find all the links to the things I discussed in this video down in the description below. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you next week.